I know this review has taken almost as long as it took for Mindbender to reopen, but the review is here and I also bring to you some tidings, some insight on why is Mindbender the way it is now. Let me explain. Mindbender has been down and out of service since the 2019 season, with us finding out eventually that they were going to be giving the 1978 Schwarzkopf coaster a complete overhaul. If you want to know more about the whole and complete construction timeline with this whole overhaul, you can watch this video right here that will show and display all of the information about it. Now let's get this thing started. Let's start off with the obvious, that Mindbender's name has now received an add-on to now being known as the RIDDLER Mindbender, with a new sign and a very amazing new green repaint that really makes the coaster pop, which you can argue has one of the best color schemes out there. Mindbender did receive new trains, which are a lot shorter than how they were prior. The new trains now have 5 cars per train, with the brand new purple gray with a hint of green in the front, with a huge purple question mark on the lead car of the train. The new Mindbender trains have a lap bar and a brand new seatbelt as well. I mean, these things, if you've ever experienced it, they are brand new and they're very, very stiff. Fortunately though, there are 3 trains which really will keep this thing moving with a great hourly capacity rate. Oh, how I miss those old trains though. But the past trains, which I actually really enjoyed, have gone through a variety of different color schemes and sponsorships. But previously, Mindbender had 7 cars per train, and I believe only operated on 2 trains on any given day, while the new shorter trains have 5 cars per train and operate 3 trains now, just to reiterate. So let's discuss the pros and cons here of the new Mindbender. The coaster needed a bit of refurb, and it did indeed receive it, with parts of the coaster being retracked, a brand new paint job, quite comfortable seats. The coaster is quite smooth now, which feels really good, up there behind the ultimate smoothness of Daredevil Dive. Probably the greatest pro of them all so far, would be the ride ops with 3 trains. From my experience, but from what I saw and experience showed me, behind Goliath, Mindbender has the 2nd best ride ops and dispatch time in the park. That is a huge plus and win for me. Cons. I've never shied away from this, but I'm not a huge fan of the new sign. I know a lot of you all aren't either, but the previous sign was one of the best signs out there, period. Fun fact though, you can still find the old sign logo that I'm referencing still in the queue line while you're waiting to get on the coaster. So that can be classified as a little pro too for you all as well. Although Mindbender has new trains, I do feel like the smaller trains have made the coaster feel slower in the majority of the sections on the coaster. Besides the infamous 3rd loop section that would go by the waterfall feature is still quite intense. Mentioning the waterfall feature, that appears to be gone for good. Beforehand, there used to be a nice waterfall feature used to flow underneath the coaster that paired well with the coaster's layout and the terrain. But now it does appear that it is gone for good. As far as forces though, I do feel like the coaster feels a lot more tamed, a lot more controlled, with the coaster only having 5 cars and the trains are a lot shorter. Yes, it has made the coaster smoother in my opinion, but those G's that would hit your body, that intensity that seems to not be there so much anymore. I must say that as she got warmed up, the coaster did begin to pick up even more though. I mean, it's still such a great coaster. With it warming up, the forces on the infamous 3rd loop actually has more intensity than the 1st loop that had quite the intensity with the 7 cars per train before and prior. Sections on the coaster go slower now, while others do have some kick to it and are quite fast. As mentioned, with the first drop to the 1st loop, it's still good, but with the lack of cars per train, makes it a tad bit weaker. Then after that 1st loop, you are faced with a trim, where the coaster is slowed down, slowing down the momentum at the top before heading down to the 2nd loop. And yes, I put quotation marks around 2nd loop because this is the so-called infamous 3rd loop, because where it's located on the coaster, it actually comes 2nd, while the other ones that you guys see is the 1st and 3rd loop. Now I wish it didn't slow down before this section, because the mysterious loop that I was just referring to is my favorite part of the coaster still. The forces you feel and how it interacts so well with the terrain, although the waterfall feature is no longer there, which made it so epic beforehand as I mentioned prior. I'm sorry, but the coaster going over those loops used to seriously roar. The intensity of feeling compressed down in your seat was so exhilarating. I loved it, I've dreamt of it, but now it is no more. I am saddened, and I'm even more saddened by how some rides you may experience a complete stop before heading into the 3rd and final loop, and sometimes you may even experience a rolling stop. But I will say on the bright side, overall, this coaster is seriously a masterpiece. Even with the retracking, it's still a fun coaster that is such a great fit for this park. The retracking though has made this coaster still zip and have speed. The new trains, although aren't my favorite of Mindbender's lifespan. They're still pretty sharp. The seats are quite comfortable. I was even told by a representative that they were modeled after Twisted Cyclone seating. Please don't quote me on that. I don't know the validity of that, so don't say MTAP said it. But I do like them though. They have fresh seat belts and a lap bar. The ride station though is one of my favorites due to it still has the old supports from 1978 still, mixed with some new features along with a new coat of paint. The new ride operator booth is now enclosed with air conditioning. And mentioning the new paint job, I've had a lot of enthusiast friends that have visited the park this year, and I know sometimes it's hard to appreciate something you see or experience very often, like how much I go to the park, but I do agree and have to admit the newer and bright green paint job on Mindbender is absolutely stunning and seriously makes a statement from the parking lot as you arrive to the park for a fun-filled, thrilling day. Twisted Cyclone is beautiful because it's only 3 years old. Georgia Scorcher received a fiery new coat of paint along with the aforementioned Mindbender paint job. But just saying though, when is Goliath going to get some new paint job love? I'm just saying. Okay, Miguel, okay. This doesn't explain that I still dislike that the waterfall feature isn't there anymore. That the coaster breaks a lot more and appears slower on some sections. That, yeah, the track was replaced, but why is the roar gone that I used to hear before the refurbishment? Whew. Okay, one at a time. First of all, in order to keep the 42-inch height limit the same and not require over-the-shoulder restraints, the braking system had to happen to keep up with compliance. A company named Northwest Coasters did the majority of the lift hill and the braking system. The retracking track profiling was not done by Gerstlauer, but in fact was replaced in-state by a metal fabricator located in Cartersville, Georgia, while tons of other companies were contracted to make various parts for the coaster that were then assembled by the Six Flags team. The bottom water lake area and the waterfall feature that had to be removed due to budgeting. Sources say the pump for the water feature costs an estimate of roughly upwards to $50,000. So pretty much it costs too much to maintain my favorite feature of the waterfall. To throw this in there, the cost to run water appears to have become an issue to Six Flags Over Georgia in recent years. Log Jamboree barely operates. The buckets that you sit in on Daffy Duck bucket blasters is supposed to be over water, but this hasn't been the case for years. As documented and reported last year about Thunder River Rapids, that the trough ran dry and they had troubles refilling it back up. Splash Waterfalls is now defunct, but the water pump did run a leak last fall right before Holiday in the Park that I caught in action in person. The cost to operate Hurricane Harbor, but that still only operates for a shorter period of time. Lastly, let's not forget, not too far down the road in the same county, there's Six Flags Whitewater down the street, that they have to balance the cost of water to maintain the operation of the largest water park in the southeastern United States. Still with Whitewater, I still believe they might be trying to budget there a bit with the lack of water that flows down some of the slides, in my personal opinion. I will say though, for the record, that I do absolutely love myself some Six Flags Whitewater, for the record that is. But in conclusion, Six Flags had to make these changes to Mindbender, such working with different manufacturers, in-state manufacturers, and changing the braking system, which you all feel slows down the pacing of this coaster. I agree, but this had to be done to save the coaster in the long run. What I'm trying to say is Schwarzkopf is no longer around, and Mindbender is a sheer genius design. But the cost for parts and the cost to maintain this epic steel coaster was becoming way more of a burden than the park would like. Mindbender was becoming a maintenance nightmare, so in order to increase the longevity of this coaster, sacrifices had to be made. With this, in order to keep just a lap bar and a seat belt, Northwest Coasters came in to slow down the momentum of the coaster by adding brakes before key moments on the coaster in order to keep up with compliance to allow just the lap bar, which in turn allows this to remain a thrilling coaster that kids can enjoy. This also means that the trains had to change as well, as going from 7 cars per train to 5 cars per train. The coaster was massively wearing on the wheels of the coaster. So with that, I throw the question back at you, and hear me out and think about it before you answer. With the light that I have shined on the RIDDLER Mindbender from Mindbender, would you prefer Mindbender the way it was for 5 more years or so, and that be the end of its lifespan? Or would you prefer the newer version of Mindbender for 50 more years the way it is now? Something to ponder. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, because I would love to hear from you. With that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me on this video. I hope you enjoyed it as I shine a little bit more light and why Mindbender is the way it is now. The middle section was a little bit of a love letter to Mindbender and the birth of what it is now. But thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed yourself. Subscribe if you guys are new and leave the video a big thumbs up. And as always, to my next video, my next adventure, take care, be well, and have a thrilling day. So if you enjoyed the video, you can support the channel via Patreon, where we have all new live streams and exclusive content and giveaways that are dedicated to the patrons on the exclusive Miguel the Annual Passholder Patreon page. And also, if you like looking nice, you can support the channel via our merchandise shop at annualpassholder.shop. You can find amazing t-shirts and hoodies, such as this one, that you guys can purchase for the low. And feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn it from red to gray, and like this video if you enjoyed yourself. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much, and have a thrilling day.